Welcome back to my channel. This video is going to show you how to remove the safety magazine disconnect from a Ruger MKIII. Let's get started. First thing you want to do is start out with a safety checked weapon, and this has been safety checked. Go ahead and put your magazine in, release the bolt, pull the trigger. Pulling the trigger is important because you want to release the tension on the mainspring housing, because the hammer strut would be pushed all the way down inside if you didn't, and it would make it much harder, if not impossible, to remove the mainspring housing. Now, I use a paper clip, and that's with a plastic coating around it to reduce the risk of scratching your mainspring housing. And what you want to do is go ahead and hook it right here, and you pull that out. Pull it out, you swing it, and then you're going to go ahead and pull down. Now this is a new Mark III, which makes it very difficult to pull, as you can tell. So what I do is grab a nylon punch, alright, I don't know why it's so hard, but it's new, so it's hard. So go ahead and remove the mainspring housing and set it aside. What you want to do is go ahead and tip the weapon back. The reason why that you're tipping it back is so that the hammer strut doesn't get caught on anything. You want it just to sort of dangle behind everything, so nothing gets in the way as the hammer pulls back as the bolt drops out, and the bolt should just fall right out. Set that aside, and next thing you want to do is remove the magazine. So you hit your magazine safety, drop it out. You also want to make sure that your hammer is laying flat all the way down, so it doesn't get in the way when we remove the bolt. I'm sorry, when we you want to make sure that the hammer is all the way down inside, so it doesn't get in the way when we remove the barrel from the frame. Now, I'm going to hold it like this, grab the big old 28-inch mallet that I spoke about in the last video, and you want to hit it right up here. Okay? And look at that. Next thing you want to do is remove the grips. Now, I have Hogue grips on here. They're not the standard grips. I prefer these, but they're still removed the same way. You want to use a screwdriver that perfectly fits the screw. You don't want any play in it. You want it to be in there solid, because if there's some play, you're gonna dork up the screw, if not the first time, eventually, if you are removing that screw a lot. And we'll go ahead and remove it. And this is for Fabio Crow. Okie dokie, we're ready to remove the grip from the frame. I'd also like to shout out to PJ Kennelly. I hope I'm saying your name right, and I apologize if I'm not. Thank you very much for watching my videos. I really do appreciate it, and that's to also Fabio Crow. You've been long-time subscribers, and I appreciate it. Now that we had the barrel off the frame, I'm going to go ahead and put the magazine back in, because I'm going to go ahead and show you something here. I'm hoping that we can see this. You can see the top of the magazine coming up, and you can also see right here, I'm going to hold this the other way, right in here. I'm going to see if I can move the light back a little bit, but right here is the magazine disconnect safety right there that I just pulled up. And now watch as the magazine comes up, you're going to see it hit that. And it's pressing up against the back of the magazine. And now you can pull your trigger. See? The hammer can go ahead and come forward. If I were to take this out, I'm going to drop the magazine, pull the trigger, and that lever is not allowing the sear to move out of the way of the hammer. Is what's happening. There's a little notch in there. Now, one of the side effects of having this safety press up against the rear of the magazine is when I press the magazine release, it does not drop out. You have to pull it out. With the Mark IIs, they just drop right out. The reason why is because this magazine disconnect safety is applying pressure to the back of the magazine and preventing it from free falling out of the frame. So there's one reason why I'm going to go ahead and remove this. The other reason is it simplifies disassembly. Every time you got to pull the trigger, like to relieve the pressure on the mainspring housing when you first start, you have to put the magazine in there to pull the trigger. And that'll be one less step. As a matter of fact, when I get done, the steps to field strip it is going to be exactly the same as the Mark II. I also failed to see the additional safety of a magazine disconnect, especially on a target pistol. This is not a carry pistol, and even if it was a carry, I think it's important to be able to shoot around without the magazine in the chamber if you had an emergency situation. So I can't think of a good reason. It makes disassembly more complex. It's just not something that I want on my weapon, and for those of you who don't want it on there, you could go ahead and do the same thing that I'm doing. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to pull the trigger, get the hammer forward, remove the magazine, and there's a pin that's holding all this, the hammer, the safety. There's a spring in there. It also holds the safety of the weapon, not just the magazine safety, but the regular safety. And there's also a mag release. It's all on the same pin. And you want to move this pin from left. You want to move it left. So you want to push the pin on the right side of the frame as you're looking at the back and push it. But you don't want to go all the way through, because if you go all the way through, you're going to have pieces coming out that we don't want to remove, because I don't want to have to put back the safety. The safety can be a little bit of a pain to put back in. All we want to do is remove the hammer and the magazine disconnect. So you just want to move it out far enough just to remove those pieces. Why is it so stiff today? Alright. And as we pull this out, we're going to go ahead and push this back down in here a little bit just to hold it tight. We have the hammer and the safety in the spring. Let me show you it again. We have the hammer, and this is the buffer, and here's what the magazine disconnect that I'm not going to put back in, and its spring. I'm going to put those aside because I ain't putting them back in. What we're going to put in its place is